Hello. I am MSD. Your partner is research. Today, we will talk about coffee, metabolic syndrome, and diabetes mellitus. Coffee drinking has been very popular all around the world. Its association with degenerative diseases like type 2 diabetes mellitus and metabolic syndrome is still unclear. Because of the controversy about the association, let us read two meta-analysis articles. The first article. The first article is about the association between coffee consumption and diabetes mellitus. This research was conducted by researchers from Department of Epidemiology and Health Statistics, Qingdao University Medical College. The title is Coffee and Caffeine Intake and Incidence of Type 2 Diabetes Mellitus, a meta-analysis of prospective studies. It was published in European Journal Nutrition, February 2014. They identified pertinent studies by a search of PubMed and Embase. They selected the fixed or random effect based on between study heterogeneity to calculate pool measure and selected the restricted cubic spline to assess dose-response relationship. The results were very interesting. Compared with the lowest level, the pooled relative risk was 0.71 for the highest level of coffee intake. Compared with the lowest level, the pooled relative risk was 0.79 for the highest level of decaffeinated coffee intake. Compared with the lowest level, the pooled relative risk was 0.70 for the highest level of caffeine intake. And then, they found that the association of coffee, decaffeinated coffee, and caffeine intake with diabetes mellitus incidence was stronger for women than that for men. Dose-response analysis suggested that incidence of diabetes mellitus decreased by 12% for every 2 cups per day increment in coffee intake, 11% for every 2 cups per day increment in decaffeinated coffee intake and 14% for every 200 mg per day increment in caffeine intake. The second article. The second article is Coffee Consumption and Risk of the Metabolic Syndrome, a meta-analysis. This research were conducted by researchers from the same institution as the first article and published in Diabetes and Metabolism Journal, April 2016. They searched for relevant articles published between the 1st of January 1999 and the 31st of May 2015 using PubMed and the China National Knowledge Infrastructure. They included in the meta-analysis all observational studies related to the relationship of coffee consumption and risk of metabolic syndrome. They estimated the result by a random effects model. They assessed the dose-response relationship by a restricted cubic spline model. They included 11 published reports including 13 studies with a total of 159,805 participants. The results were very interesting too. The relative risk for the highest compared to the lowest category of coffee consumption was 0.872. After excluding one study with a relative risk less than 0.300, the relative risk was 0.889. A nonlinear relationship was found between coffee consumption and the metabolic syndrome in the dose-response analysis. To understand deeply about these findings, you can proceed to the full articles. See you in the other issues. I am MSD, your partner in research.